Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's Aggressive Progressives. I'm joined by the amazing Asian. It's Steve-O is here, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, the amazing Asian?
Well, I'm so amazing. I just realized we tweeted out the wrong information. You said 11 a.m. That's like an hour ago.
Oh.
It's noon right now. Sorry, people.
What? I really did say 11 a.m.
You did.
I'm so stupid.
You're not good at math. I get it.
I'm not good at math. I'm not good at a lot of things. I'm good at comedy, and that's about it. And sniffing out bullshit. Yay! All right, I'm here with Steph Zamorano. The miserable liberal is also here. Hi, Steph.
I'm miserable.
Yes, you don't seem it.
I am.
You seem happier than ever. And you know what, Steph? In fact, you are so not miserable and you are so happy. I don't know if people have ever experienced someone so happy that it's annoying. That's how happy Steph is. It's a little annoying, especially in the morning.
No, you know what you usually say? You usually say it's a little much.
It's a little much. It's a little much. Reel it in. No one's that fucking happy. All right, here we go. So we're going to talk about crime and punishment today. We're going to talk about policing. We're going to talk about prisons. We're going to talk about the difference between in-prison people in the United States and the way civilized people do it, who actually read books. We're also going to maybe get to how Glenn Greenwald totally made fun of Fox News on Fox News. But I doubt we'll have time to get to that. So, by the way, how was your Christmas and whatever?
It was good. I went to.
Do you celebrate Christmas?
Yes.
Are you Christian? I mean, are your kids Christian or whatever?
Not really.
Okay.
But come on, who doesn't do Christmas?
Right.
But I actually hate celebrating Christmas because it's a hassle. Getting the tree, the decoration, it's a lot of work. So to bypass all of that, I started a tradition a couple of years ago where I drag my entire family up to the mountains, up in Mammoth, and we have a ski weekend. And it's kind of nice. I mean, we invite all of our extended family, so all the cousins are there. And this year was a big gathering, like 30 people. And the house that we rented was amazing. Had a pool table, a poker table, and we skied, we snowboarded. It was fun. And we take turns cooking for the entire group. So it's a great trip. Unfortunately, I got sick right afterwards, which is the reason why I missed your party. By the way, folks, I was invited to Jimmy Dore's famous party, and I couldn't go. It's like being invited to the Oscars and not being able to go.
It's a very, very tight-knit group. Not a lot of invitations go out to that.
But I did, so Jimmy's incredibly generous. Every year he sends me these beautiful tomahawk steaks, and I made one of them for myself and for my family to share. It was fantastic.
Well, you know what? We did I actually did a vegetarian New Year's because I'm switching over to vegetarianism.
Glad I missed it.
So I'm not gonna go vegan, but I am gonna go vegetarian. So we did it. We did a vegetarian New Year's.
Jimmy, we just had omakase, which is which is sushi. All you can eat.
Did I say
you're a pescatarian?
I meant pescatarian.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm always gonna eat sushi. Yeah. So that's okay. So I'm gonna go fish. I won't eat mammals. How about that?
I like that rule. How about poultry? You're gonna eat chicken, turkey?
No, but I will eat eggs because there's no death involved, and I will eat same thing with cheese.
Well, the dairy industry is pretty brutal.
But I know. Stop it. I know. All right, we're gonna get there.
Hypocrite.
I know. Come on, that's good though.
It's good. It's good. I wish I could be that strong. I'm gonna try to cut out.
I already cut out pig for good.
I know.
I love pig.
It's delicious.
But
you're right. I'm gonna try to cut out mammals, but I think I need to eat the chicken and the turkey, at least for now. But I'm gonna cut out the mammals.
So Malcolm, who is on this show often, Malcolm Fleischner, do you say Fleischner? Malcolm, Fleischner just sounds dirty, right? Hey, did you get the Fleischner? It sounds like one of those things, right?
Malcolm's a dirty guy,
so his mother is super progressive, right? And she.
By the way, his mother is super cool.
That's what I mean. Super cool,
she's
super
a cool
activist too.
Woman, yeah.
You covered her on this show.
On this show, she's been on this show because of Israel. You weren't here that night.
That's right. Yeah.
But Malcolm's mother had to go take care of someone's chickens while they were on vacation or whatever. So they had chicken coop or whatever. So she went over to take care of them for the week. And when she came back, she goes, "Can't eat chickens anymore." And Malcolm said, "Why?" She said, "There are some chickens like me better than the other chickens." Some chickens would come jump on her lap right away when they saw her. They'd get excited, and some didn't care, and she could tell. And so he said that was it. I was like, holy cow! Because anyway, it did. the more you raise your consciousness, the harder it is to eat meat. And but I will always eat fish. Okay.
I won't eat dog.
No.
I like my dog.
That's not funny. All right, let's get on with the show. I need to have a sip of something.
Jimmy is in love with his dog, so you can't make any jokes about anything bad happening to the dog.
No. Oh my God, no.
It's like making jokes about your kid. You wouldn't make a joke about your kid like that, would you?
About Katie?
You wouldn't put your kid into the middle of some stupid joke, right?
Maybe.
No. Maybe. Anyway, here we go. Let's get to the show.
Do you want to start your show with any kind of phrase or anything?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. And that's how I want to start off the show. Because saying that in a newsroom will get you fired for creating a hostile work environment, but saying that in a comedy club will get you an award for creating a hilarious work environment. And that's where I come from, all right? So I come from comedy clubs, and I'm not a Puritan, and that's why I got into comedy, because I love George Carlin. And let's just keep that in mind, that or we're artists. I am, and it's a low art stand-up comedy, but it is an art form, and you have to allow me to express myself artistically. I have to take a journey and find out what happens, and so there you go. And that George Carlin, my all-time favorite comedian, and I think people, if he was, when he was in his later stages of a career, he was considered, like a sage. He was always, I think, considered that. But a lot of people were afraid of him because of those words. What do you think of George Carlin?
I think it's fantastic. I like him a lot. The reason why I like him so much is, other than being funny, he provided real insight into our political discourse,
yes,
our society, and just he went beyond the surface level observations of what's really happening. And look, Jimmy, I think in many ways you did the same thing, and that's the reason why I was a big fan of yours from the very beginning, and the reason why I pushed you always since I've known you to do exactly what you're doing today. And you don't need to do prepared bits and all that kind of stuff. Like, just do the news, allow your natural humor to come out when it's appropriate. Other times, let yourself be passionate and angry when that's appropriate. But like you said at the top of the show, sift through the bullshit and make the observations that cut right to the bone.
Thank you, buddy. That's very nice of you to say. I feel better already. I feel good.
I like George Carlin too, Jimmy. Just so you know, and that's why I love that you start the show with that, because I think, when did he do that bit? In 1972?
In the early 70s.
So it makes you think.
And it aired on Pacifica, which is where our radio, Jimmy Dore Show, airs nationwide on Pacifica, in New York on WBAI, in LA on on KPFK.
Yes.
So go ahead.
But the whole point is here's somebody who was striking out against the word police in the 70s. And look how far we've come, and now we seem to be taking some steps backwards right now. So I'm all for starting shows with the 7 forbidden words.
Yeah, the 7 words you can't say. By the way, that's in the court documents. It's called the Carlin words. When I got my show on KPFK in Los Angeles, they give you this handbook, and here's the words you can't say, and in it says Carlin words. They're called the Carlin words. Isn't that amazing? So I love the way he examined that and what made swear words, and I learned through that when you swear, it comes from the reptilian part of your brain. That's what lights up. Did you know that? And that and if we didn't have swear words, we would invent them. So, because they are invented anyway. So whatever, and sometimes swear words aren't swear words, and then they turn into swear words, or they are and they turn into be not. And it's all about our need to have them. You need to have swear words. Your brain needs to have them to, like, like when a duck gets in a fight with another duck, they flap their wings afterwards to get rid of all the built up energy. That's what swearing does for us. Did you know that people trust people who swear more than people who don't swear? Did you know that? And I think that's why people trust me, because I'm such a potty mouth.
Well, it's because you're being authentic, right? I mean, is it really any better if you say, I can't fucking believe this, versus I can't believe this, right? Like, is it really, it's the same thing, right? And of course, you gotta put context into everything. So,
right.
I mean, these swear words depends on the intent and the context that you say them in. Just on their own, they mean nothing, right?
Right.
It's like nudity. So if you see a scene from Schindler's List, that's not erotic, right?
Right.
I mean, it's and to censor that out because the children might be watching. That's weird.
Yes,
right? It's you could have two people fully clothed having a very erotic scene, and because it's all context,
right?
Or a room full of naked people and it's not erotic at all because it's super depressing.
Something horrible.
It's about a horrible tragedy.
Or something.
Yeah. So again, context matters.
Wow, that's a good point. I never thought about the nudity thing like that. I never thought about it like that. All right, this is good conversation. I like this, but we're going to do a show now. And I like doing podcasts. So somehow now when I get here, I started getting into podcast mode with you instead of present news show mode or whatever it is.
Maybe we should save the podcast portion for later in the show for like the members only section.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll do that.
Ah, nice.
I know, because people tuning in now are like, well, what's the big deal about this show? They're just fucking talking.
Move on with it. Shut up and go.
Get to the show, they're saying. That's what they're saying.
That's what they're
I'm sure, I know that's what Tim Collins is saying. All right, so guess what? Go to my computer. This is from the National Review. Now, if you know who the National Review is, they're a right-leaning magazine. And the headline on this article is, "We were wrong about stop and frisk." So I'm going to get to that in a second. But before I do, I want to show you this. This is happening in Israel right now. Do you know who this woman is, Steph and Steve?
No.
Ahed Tamimi, is that how you say her name?
Tamimi.
So she's an activist. She's a Palestinian activist, right? So she grew up, her whole life, she's lived in a prison, meaning the open air prison that Israel runs, the occupied territories, and it's an apartheid state. And she's lived under checkpoints and occupation and no economy and embargoes and second-class citizenship her whole life, right? So in 2012, she became a little bit famous because she stood up to the Israeli soldiers and she punched one of them, and because they're in her land and they're making her life miserable. And so they arrested her. And she's 16 now. She's 16. Back then she was a lot younger. I'm not a math surgeon, but I'm gonna guess she was probably 10 or 11 when that started. And here's the Newsweek cover. You ready to see the Newsweek cover? Here's how Newsweek reported it. Go to my computer, please. Despite her age, Ahed Tamimi has a long history of assault against police and soldiers. That's their headline. So here's my friend Jamenta. Here's what he said about it. He said, editor, I need a story, a headline that makes a criminal out of a child living under violent military occupation. Writer, I got you. Because that's exactly what that is. And here's another headline they could have ran for this story. Here's how The Guardian reported it. Palestinian 16-year-old Ahed Tamimi is the latest child victim of Israel's occupation. She is neither Joan of Arc nor a Palestinian puppet, but a symbol of a second traumatized generation. So I just want to show you right there. I mean, and The Guardian also does a lot of bad reporting, but they do a lot of good reporting too, and here's some of it. And that's the way you could have reported, but then do you see how Newsweek did it? So do you see how that's why we have a show. That's why we do this show, and it's because the mainstream news media continues. You know, Malcolm X said if you read the newspapers, they'll have you hating the people oppressed and loving the people doing the oppressing. And that's exactly what the Newsweek wants to do right there. They want you to demonize a girl who's lived in an illegal state, an occupied state, occupied illegally by Israel since she was born, since before she was born. And she's a victim of that. She's not a perp. And that's what Newsweek was doing. So we had to go across the pond to get somebody else to give us a better headline. So thank you very much. All right, let's get back to New York. I just want that's the whole reason we do this show, is because of how bad the establishment and mainstream news media is. And I like to remind you that every time we start the show at the top. So so there you go. So now let's get back to New York. They stopped stop and frisk, and the National Review acknowledged it, and they acknowledged that they were wrong about stop and frisk, which is a big deal because just last year, 2016, 2 years ago now, just in July of 2016, Hillary Clinton brought Michael Bloomberg on stage at the Democratic National Convention, a billionaire who instituted stop and frisk, which is a fascist policy, a billionaire who did that to poor brown and black people, brought him on stage, did let Nina Turner come on stage. Isn't that amazing? So that's where the Democratic Party was. They were pro stop and frisk and the people who implemented it just as recent as last July. And here now are conservative at the National Review admitting stop and frisk was a failure. And here, I'll go into it right now. So they say, this is from the article, restricting the tactic being stop and frisk, I thought would cause an uptick, maybe even a spike in crime rates. Mayor Bill de Blasio, who made ending stop and frisk the centerpiece of his successful 2013 campaign for mayor, struck me as a man who was cynically willing to tolerate an increase in crime if he thought it to his political advantage to amplify leftist voters' core belief that policing was out of control. Today in New York, use of stop and frisk, which the department justified via the 1968 Terry v. Ohio Supreme Court ruling, has crashed. Yet the statistics are clear. Crime is lower than ever. Major crime in New York City has continued to decline almost across the board in the 4 years of the de Blasio administration, to the lowest rate since New York City began keeping extensive records on crime in the early 1960s. Crime is literally off the charts, the low end of the charts. To compare today's crime rate to even that of 10 years ago is to observe a breathtaking decline. So what does that tell you? So what that tells me is that this crime and punishment attitude that the United States has developed, this oppressive punish, and spend more money on imprisoning people and harsher and longer sentences, it's a mistake. It's a mistake, it didn't work, and the statistics they used to say it worked was wrong because crime was falling across the nation at the same rate as it was falling in New York City. And a lot of people say, because they can't explain why crime is down so much. But one explanation is they took lead out of the gasoline a generation ago. So now we have a generation of people growing up without lead in the air, and that affects your brain. So a lot of people are saying that has a lot to do with it. I'm sure there's a lot of things, but that's got to be one of them. But the important point here is stop and frisk is unconstitutional, it is terrorizing a segment of your population. Which segment? The most vulnerable, the people with the least power and the no money and no power. That's who it literally terrorizes those communities. It was unconstitutional and racist, and it didn't even work. But it made white people feel better because we were bothering brown and black people. So it doesn't work, and now even the National Review admits it. Steph?
Well, obviously, stop and frisk is terrible for the victims of stop and frisk, but it's also terrible for the police officers themselves because you are telling these people it's okay for you to just go and bully people, and you know it normalizes and justifies that kind of behavior, which is not good for the police either. So I'm so happy that stop and frisk is gone because, as you said, it's really just a means of harassing, intimidating, embarrassing and humiliating and inconveniencing, you know, a large number of people. And I don't have the stats in front of me, but you know, we've done stories about this in the past on the Young Turks main show. Stop and frisk, the people who were stopped and frisked, it was like 97% of them were innocent, and they're like, yeah, just go on your way.
Right.
I mean, it was some extraordinarily high. So yeah, it's bad for the victims, of course, but for the police officers, now they're wasting time on nonsense and teaching them bad behavior, bad traits, and bad habits. You know, instead of doing real homework that takes, you know, real critical thinking and strategizing, just go bother people who are black and brown. It's terrible for everyone involved.
And maybe you'll find a joint in their pocket, maybe you'll find a thing, and you just try to get them into the system. Steph?
Well, then, if you know, I appreciate your position about the police. You know, maybe they felt compromised too. Well, they have a union. They could have unified together and stood up and said, this is illegal. This is bad for our state. This is bad for the people in this state. And you know, how is that not a police state under stop and frisk?
Well, it is. We live in a police state right now, by the way.
It's a police state.
You know, and the cops who did stand up against stop and frisk, they got ostracized by the other cops.
Yeah.
Just so you know, there were cops who did this. Stand up and go, hey, this is wrong and we shouldn't do it.
And look, I would bet that most people, most cops who are in favor of stop and frisk, is not because they wanted to necessarily, you know, bully people. Everybody wants more power. So why not? So, it's a hassle to go get a warrant. It's a hassle to articulate probable cause. So the reason why I'm saying it's bad for the cops is that it teaches them terrible habits. It makes them lazier and more discriminatory. And it takes a tremendous amount of self-discipline to say, no, you know what, I want to be held to a higher standard. I want someone to say, you can't do that, you have to do something better. So for the cops, you're right. They should have self-selected and said, we don't want to do this, but that's asking a lot. Whether they're cops, whether they're firemen, whether they're teachers, everybody wants more power and more authority and less accountability. And so we have to hold them to account. This is why it's important that we do this kind of shows and citizens rise up and say, you can't do that. Stop and frisk is wrong. It's wrong for these reasons. Have data to back them up, and I'm so glad we got rid of it. Bill de Blasio made a great point when he was running for mayor because he has a biracial son. And he made the point that his son could be the victim of stop and frisk.
Right.
And he made it personal and it helped people to understand this is not right.
Yes, I appreciate de Blasio's position on that, and I remember seeing the commercials when he was running for office. I just think, like at some point, they're in a position of power, and I see what you're saying. Like they have power, and they want to have more. They want to be able to exercise that power. But I do see it. They had to be meeting some sort of quota. There had to be some sort of data collection to say that, hey, you know what, you're right on target right now. So I think it was, of course, perpetually an abuse of power.
Yes.
Oh, no doubt. So we're gonna, when we come back, we're gonna show you the new progressive Occupy Wall Street lawyer who just became the district attorney in Philadelphia, which is amazing. He gave a great speech. We're gonna show you that. Plus, we're gonna compare and contrast the United States prison system with Norway's. Who's you thinks is betters? We'll be right back at Aggressive Progressives. You go to tytnetwork.com/join. Did we already go? Can I? No. So you go to tytnetwork.com/join if you want to become a member. And if you're already a member, go to tytnetwork.com/members live. You see the rest of the show. There's a lot more show coming up. It's going to be a lot tighter.